weeks. Well, for more insight into President Obama's new budget, Carol Masser and Matt Miller talked to David Stockman. From 1981 until, about 1985, Stockman served as President Reagan's director of the Office of Management and Budget. He shared his views on Obama's proposals. Take a listen.
This budget is really a cop-out. I mean, it's a new low in political cowardice, because despite all the flim-flam they have on top about some cuts, and I'll address that, down below where it counts, in defense, in revenue, in entitlement reform, there's nothing. Now, they say there's 1.1 trillion of cuts. Fine. 10 years, who can see 10 years? They're spending 46 trillion over the same 10-year period. So if you tell me a 2% cut over 10 years in a period that no one can foresee or control is meaningful, I will say no. Take a look at 212, the budget that they're actually proposing. 1.5 trillion worth of entitlements, not one dime cut, actually 16 billion of increase. Defense spending, 890 billion built in for defense and security. We're in a totally different world, as we learned last week, and they're not even scratching the surface.
Why aren't we scratching the surface, like with something like defense?
I can't understand that. I think
is it such a sacred cow?
I think it's because there's so much inertia, momentum, the military-industrial complex, the defense lobbyists, all of the committees on Capitol Hill. But think about it. This budget is bigger in real terms than anything Ronald Reagan ever proposed. This president today, after Egypt last week, the Cold War being over, in a world that is utterly safer and different than the 1980s, is proposing to spend $7.5 trillion over the 8 years ahead for defense and security, which is $3 trillion more in real dollars, not inflation, real dollars, $211, than Ronald Reagan spent during the peak of the Cold War at the height of the evil empire, when we had 8,000 real warheads from the Soviet Union directed at us, and they had 60 divisions or more. So the point is, we don't have an industrial enemy left. I mean, Russia's a kleptocracy. China, they're more interested in supplying Walmart than bombing it, right? So what are we doing spending $890 billion for defense and security when it's clear that we're not welcome as the world's policeman? We don't need to be the world's policeman, and we need to drastically reduce this budget. But he took a powder, and this is a left-of-center administration. So, you know, there is really a lot to worry about.
What do you think,
here.
David, about the idea that this is the Obama administration's sort of first lowball offer, because they expect the Republicans to come in with a huge cut, a lot more, and then they sort of meet in the middle? I mean, that's what has been suggested.
I think that's the fundamental problem, the dysfunction in our politics. When you elect a president like Harry Truman, he said the buck stops here. I'm here to bite the bullet, make tough decisions. Obama thinks he's national toastmaster, and that he can give great speeches, but he can duck what he needs to do.